Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to check out Lost Legacy, the Starship. Now this game is very similar to Love Letter, if you've ever played that. In fact, from my understanding, this is the official spin-off to Love Letter. Although this Lost Legacy comprises of two different games. You've got the Starship, which is what we're covering today, and Flying Garden, a game that I don't own yet. So, what is Lost Legacy the Starship? Well, like I said, it's a spin-off to Love Letter. It plays almost the same way, but it does introduce some different mechanics, which I'll go over in a minute. And the object of this game is to either eliminate all of your opponents, like in Love Letter, or to find the Lost Legacy. In this case, it's the Starship card. So, I guess without further ado, let's just take a quick look at the components and see how the game is played. Okay, so here's a very brief look at the components and game setup. The game consists of this drawstring bag. Great material, great color, love everything about it. You've got these reference cards here. Each player gets one of those. You've got a deck of 16 cards. You'll shuffle them up, deal one face down sideways to form the ruins, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. And then each player also draws one card to form their starting hand. Okay, so just to quickly show you how a typical set of turns plays out, I'm going to play out some turns without resolving the card effects. That way I don't confuse you with why this is going here, why this is going there, whatever. So on a player's turn, what they're going to do is they're going to draw a card from the deck so that they have two. They're going to go ahead and choose one and discard it face up. They resolve its effects. And so as long as there's another card in the deck, play moves on to the next player. This player will go ahead and draw a card so that they have two. They take a look at their hand. They choose one, face up. Resolve its effects. Play moves on to this player. They draw a card, assuming there's any left. Take a look at their hand. They play one face up. Resolve its effects. Play moves back down here. And the reason why you're discarding these face up in front of you is so that you can see what's been played up to that point. Because again, players are looking for the Lost Legacy or the Starship. So this will continue until one of two things happen. Until you are the last one standing, or there's no more cards in the deck, in which case play moves on to the investigation phase. I keep calling it the interrogation phase, but it's called the investigation phase. Anyway, if you are the last one standing, you automatically win. There are cards in this deck that will eliminate players throughout this round. So let's just assume for the moment that all of the cards have been played at one point. Each player will only have one card remaining. There will be more face-up cards, obviously. And at this point, starting with the player that has the lowest... Damn it. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how the flow of play works, I'm going to play out some turns without resolving the card effects. So let's just start with this player here. At the beginning of their turn, what they're going to do is they're going to draw a single card from the deck so that they have two cards. They're going to go ahead and take a look at their hand, choose one to play it face up, and the reason why you play it face up is so that everyone can see what cards have been played up to that point. Because again, players are looking for that Lost Legacy, the Starship. So after that, the card effects are resolved, and then play moves on to the next player, assuming that there's still a card in the deck. If there's not a card in the deck to draw for the next player, then that phase is over. I'll get to that in a minute. But in this case, there is still a card in the deck. So this player draws a card, takes a look at their hand of two cards, chooses one to play face up, resolves its effects. There's still a card here, so play moves on to this player. They draw a card. They take a look at their hand. They play one face up. They resolve its effects. Alright, there's still a card here, so play would move on to this player. Okay, and that's basically all that's going to happen at this point. Players will continue drawing a card, playing a card, resolving its effects, and moving their turns around the table until one of two things happen. If the deck runs out, play will move on to the investigation phase. Or, if the player is the last one standing, you can eliminate players during this phase. If you are the last one standing, you automatically win. So during the investigation phase, basically players will call out, are there any ones? Are there any twos? Are there any threes? This is basically the investigation order. There's a number on the top left-hand corner of these cards that tell you what your order is. So whenever it says, starting with the ones, are there any ones? Players will take a look at their personal card here to see if they have a 1. If not, they move on to the 2s. If not, they move on to the 3s. If not, they move on to the 4s. In this case, this player is a 4. Whenever a player's number is called, and assuming no one else has that number, because if 2 people have the same number, they cannot investigate at all. But let's just say that there are no other 4s in play, and this 4 was called. You can investigate. And in order to do that, basically, you choose a card from a player's hand, or that is a card that is located in the ruins. And it is possible to add to the ruins via these card effects from the first phase. So basically the player will be able to choose a card from face down in the ruins or from another player's hand. If they choose the Lost Legacy, then they automatically win the game. And at the end of this investigation phase, if no one's found the Lost Legacy card, then no one wins. Okay, so what are some of the cards that you'll find in this deck? Well, you've got the Lost Legacy, the Starship. This card cannot be played, so it's not something that you can play face up. And of course, players are looking for it. So if you do have it, you don't want other players to know that you have it. Because, if come the investigation phase and your number is called, you can choose your own card to investigate and you'll automatically win. So you can do that. There's the Lost Legacy, the Starship. You've got this Assault character here. And this little string of lights up here is how often this card will come up. So there's 3 instances of this card in the deck. Look at another player's hand. You may exchange that card with your hand. Old map. There's 2 of that card. Look at the top card of the deck and place it in the ruins. Then you may shuffle the ruins. Search. Look at any card in the ruins. You may exchange that card with your hand. General, look at the top card of the deck. You may exchange that card with your hand. Oh, by the way, if a player happens to be eliminated during the first phase and they have the Lost Legacy card, that Lost Legacy card is shuffled back into the deck. Shadow Thief. Look at another player's hand or any card in the ruins. If that card is the Lost Legacy, you automatically win the game. So there's another way to win via this card effect here. Sneak Attack. By the way, you cannot use the Sneak Attack during the investigation phase. This X does not count as a number, so you cannot investigate with this card if you have it in your hand at the end. If this card is in your hand and is looked at by another player, discard this card and you get the hand of that player. That player is also eliminated. So yeah, there's some just a quick look at some of the cards here. The card art is fantastic, I have to say. The card stock is also very good. So yeah, Lost Legacy, the Starship. Okay, so there you have it, Lost Legacy, the Starship. It's important to stress that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just to give you a general overview so that you could see how the game is played. As far as what I thought, I really like this one. And the reason being, I love Love Letter. I really like the game. And I have the Batman version, which I prefer, just because Batman's awesome. But not getting into that, this game sort of has a leg up over Love Letter and Love Letter Batman in the sense that there's an extra phase and an extra goal to shoot for. And Love Letter is just basically trying to eliminate everybody. That's it. With this game, you actually have a card that players are looking for. So not only do you have to sort of use some deductive reasoning to try and figure out what your opponents may have, but you're also going to use some deductive reasoning to try and find this Lost Legacy card. So there's more ways to win the game, there's more things to look for, more things to think about, and there's also that investigation phase. That's not something that was available in Love Letter. So there's just more here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So Lost Legacy, the Starship, it's definitely a recommend if you love Love Letter. So if that's... I think that's all I have to say about it. If you guys want to check out my full review, you can at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.